Hey guys, tonight we're diving into something completely different, but equally obsessive. The ancient human art of finding the perfect corner to hide from the world and call it interior design. We're talking about cozy corners, snugs, and humanity's 5,000-year quest to answer the eternal question. Where can I sit with a book and pretend my responsibilities don't exist? So before you get comfortable in whatever corner you're currently occupying, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy listening to someone explain why your great-grandmother's reading nook was actually a sophisticated psychological refuge. And let me know in the comments what your ideal cozy corner looks like, and whether you're the type who needs 17 pillows or just a good chair and decent lighting. Now, dim those lights, grab whatever beverage makes you feel civilized, and let's settle in for tonight's journey together. So, you think humans just randomly started putting chairs in corners and calling it cozy? Adorable. Truly, like assuming evolution just happened to give us thumbs so we could scroll through our phones more efficiently. Tonight, we're tracing the epic saga of snugs and cozy corners from cave-dwelling Neanderthals who invented the concept of personal space, to modern humans who spend hundreds of dollars on throw pillows that serve no actual purpose except making them feel like functional adults. This is the story of how we turned hiding from our problems into an art form, and why every civilization in history has independently concluded that the secret to happiness is a good corner, proper lighting, and somewhere to put your tea. Before humans invented the art of being miserable in meetings, before they perfected the skill of pretending to listen while mentally calculating how many cups of coffee it would take to achieve enlightenment, they discovered something far more profound: the desperate, primal need to find a corner and hide from the world like a socially anxious hedgehog. This wasn't philosophy. This wasn't architecture. This was survival instinct wrapped in wool and justified with interior design magazines. Picture our cave-dwelling ancestors, fresh from inventing fire and immediately regretting it, because now everyone could see their bad hair. Grok the Neanderthal didn't wake up one morning and think, "Today I shall revolutionize domestic comfort." No, Grok woke up, stubbed his toe on a rock, and thought, "I need a place where rocks cannot betray me." And so, the first cozy corner was born, a shadowy alcove in the back of the cave, away from the fire's judgmental flickering, away from his neighbor's loud chewing, away from the existential terror of saber-toothed tigers who had opinions about personal space. The cave corner wasn't glamorous. It smelled like wet mammoth and disappointment. But it was his. When Grok crawled into that rocky embrace, something magical happened. His shoulders dropped from their permanent position around his ears. His breathing slowed from being chased by predators to moderately concerned about predators. For the first time in evolutionary history, a human being experienced what we now call chilling out, though Grok called it, not want move anymore. This moment changed everything. Not immediately, of course, because immediate change wasn't invented until the Industrial Revolution, and even then it came with a warranty that nobody read. But slowly, like continental drift with feelings, the concept of the cozy corner began to spread through human consciousness like gossip in a medieval village. Fast forward several thousand years, past the invention of agriculture, which taught humans that they could be miserable in groups while producing their own food, past the discovery of bronze, which proved that humans could make shinier ways to be miserable, and arrive at ancient Egypt. The Egyptians, who had already mastered the art of building monuments to their own mortality, decided they needed somewhere to sit while contemplating all that death. Enter the Egyptian nook. Not the breakfast kind, though they probably would have appreciated those too, but architectural niches carved into the walls of their homes like expensive caves. These weren't accidental. Egyptian architects, who spent their days calculating pyramid angles and wondering if their pharaoh's tomb would be big enough to store his ego, deliberately designed small, intimate spaces within larger rooms. Why? Because even ancient Egyptians understood that sometimes you need to escape from your family without actually leaving the house. The wealthy Egyptians took this concept and ran with it like it was a chariot race they were actually winning. They created reading nooks filled with papyrus scrolls, meditation corners adorned with sacred cats who judged them silently, and conversation alcoves where they could gossip about the pharaoh's new haircut without being fed to crocodiles. These spaces were decorated with soft cushions, low tables, and enough incense to make breathing optional. The message was clear: comfort was no longer about survival. It was about style, status, and the revolutionary idea that you could be comfortable on purpose. Meanwhile, in ancient Greece, philosophers were busy inventing the concept of thinking too much about everything, and they needed places to do it properly. The Greeks didn't just want cozy corners, they wanted cozy corners with meaning, with purpose, with architectural significance that future students would have to write essays about. They created the symposium nook, small curved spaces within larger rooms where intellectuals could gather to drink wine and debate whether trees falling in forests made sounds if no philosophers were around to overthink it. These Greek thinking corners were revolutionary because they formalized the relationship between space and contemplation. You couldn't just lean against any old wall and call yourself a philosopher. No, you needed the right kind of corner, preferably one with good acoustics for dramatic speeches and convenient access to more wine. The Greeks understood that the physical environment shaped mental states, which was a profound realization that they celebrated by building more corners and having more debates about whether those corners truly existed or were merely shadows on the cave wall of reality. The Romans, never content to let the Greeks have all the fun, took the cozy corner concept and did what Romans did best: made it bigger, more elaborate, and somehow involved conquest. Roman homes featured elaborate alcoves called extrae, semi-circular recesses that were like cozy corners for people who had conquered most of the known world and needed somewhere appropriate to sit while counting their gold. But the Romans didn't stop at bigger. They invented the concept of the private retreat within the public space. Roman baths, which were less about bathing and more about socializing while naked, featured intimate conversation areas tucked away from the main pools. These were cozy corners for people who wanted to gossip about gladiators without everyone overhearing their opinions about which fighter had the best abs. The Roman contribution to cozy corner evolution was the recognition that comfort could be both private and social. You could retreat from the world while still being part of it. This was a sophisticated understanding of human nature that the Romans expressed by building really nice places to sit while discussing philosophy, politics, and whether the barbarians were ever going to learn proper table manners. Then came the fall of Rome, which was like a massive empire, wide eviction notice, and suddenly everyone was back to finding their own corners in a world that had become significantly less comfortable. The Dark Ages weren't called dark because of lighting issues, though those certainly didn't help. They were dark because the infrastructure of comfort had collapsed along with everything else, and people were back to making do with whatever corners they could find in drafty castles and one-room hovels. But humans are resilient, especially when it comes to being comfortable, and medieval Europeans began to innovate within their limitations. The great halls of medieval castles were vast, cold spaces designed more for intimidation than relaxation, but clever inhabitants began creating cozy corners within these architectural behemoths. They used tapestries as room dividers, creating intimate spaces within larger ones. They placed chairs near fireplaces, not just for warmth, but for the psychological comfort of enclosure. They invented the window seat, which combined the cozy corner with the revolutionary concept of natural lighting and people watching. Medieval window seats were genius. They provided enclosure on three sides while opening up to the outside world. You could be safely tucked away while still keeping an eye on approaching enemies. Traveling merchants, or particularly judgmental sheep. The window seat was the medieval equivalent of a security blanket with a view, and it established the principle that cozy corners didn't have to be completely enclosed to be effective. Sometimes the best retreat was one that still let you watch the world go by while remaining safely removed from its demands. The medieval period also saw the rise of the reading nook, though books were rare enough that most reading nooks were used more for meditation, prayer, or staring into the distance while contemplating the plague. Monasteries, in particular, became laboratories for cozy corner development. Monks, who had dedicated their lives to contemplation and avoiding the outside world, needed spaces that supported both activities. They created carrels, small enclosed desks in monastery libraries, and meditation alcoves in chapels. These spaces were Spartan by modern standards, but they served the essential function of providing solitude within community, privacy within shared spaces. The Renaissance arrived like a well-dressed party crasher, announcing that everything was about to become more elaborate, more artistic, and significantly more expensive. Renaissance architects and interior designers, who were often the same person because specialization was still being invented, approached the cozy corner with the artistic sensibility of people who had recently rediscovered perspective and wanted to use it everywhere. Renaissance cozy corners became architectural features in their own right. They were designed with the same attention to proportion, harmony, and beauty that went into painting ceiling frescoes and sculpting marble statues of naked people with unrealistic muscle definition. The wealthy commissioned artists to design intimate spaces that were small masterpieces, complete with painted walls, carved details, and furniture that was beautiful enough to be displayed in museums, but comfortable enough to actually use. The Renaissance also introduced the concept of the study, a room or alcove dedicated entirely to reading, writing, and contemplating the rediscovered wisdom of ancient Greeks and Romans, who had already figured out most of this cozy corner business centuries earlier. Renaissance studies were cozy corners elevated to room status, private retreats lined with books, maps, and scientific instruments that their owners might or might not have known how to use, but definitely looked impressive. These Renaissance studies established several important principles that would influence cozy corner design for centuries to come. First, a truly effective cozy corner needed good lighting, preferably natural light from a window that also provided visual interest and connection to the outside world. Second, the space should be surrounded by objects that reflected the owner's interests and personality, creating a sense of identity and belonging. Third, the furniture should be scaled to human proportions rather than architectural ambitions, comfortable for actual use rather than just impressive to look at. The Baroque period that followed was like the Renaissance's dramatic older sibling who had discovered theatre and would not stop talking about it. Baroque cozy corners were still cozy, but they were cozy with attitude, cozy with theatrical lighting effects, cozy with enough gold leaf to fund a small war. The wealthy commissioned intimate spaces that were like miniature theatres, designed to create specific moods and emotional experiences. These weren't just places to sit and read. They were stages for the performance of being cultured, refined, and wealthy enough to afford really good curtains. But the Baroque obsession with drama and display also led to an important development in cozy corner evolution, the recognition that these spaces could be designed to evoke specific emotions and mental states. A cozy corner wasn't just about physical comfort. It was about psychological comfort, about creating an environment that supported whatever activity or mood the occupant desired. This was sophisticated understanding of environmental psychology, expressed through velvet upholstery and strategically placed mirrors. The 18th century brought the Enlightenment, which was basically an intellectual movement dedicated to thinking rationally about everything, including furniture arrangement. Enlightenment philosophers and designers approached the cozy corner with scientific methodology, studying how space, light, color, and furnishing affected human behavior and well-being. This wasn't just about making pretty rooms. It was about understanding the relationship between environment and human psychology. French salon culture of the 18th century elevated the cozy corner to an art form. Salons were gatherings of intellectuals, artists, and socially prominent people who met regularly to discuss ideas, share creative work, and gossip about who was having affairs with whom. The physical spaces for these salons were carefully designed to facilitate intimate conversation while accommodating groups of various sizes. They featured alcoves, window seats, and conversation corners that could be reconfigured depending on the evening's activities and the social dynamics of the particular gathering. These French salons established the principle that cozy corners weren't just for solitary activities. They could be social spaces, designed to bring people together in comfortable, intimate settings that encouraged meaningful conversation and genuine connection. The salon cozy corner was about creating conditions for human interaction at its best, thoughtful, engaging, and civilized enough that nobody threw food or challenged anyone else to duels. The Industrial Revolution arrived in the 19th century, like a factory whistle at dawn, loud, disruptive, and impossible to ignore. Suddenly everything was being mass-produced, including furniture, textiles, and the problems that came with rapid social change. People were moving from rural areas to cities, from extended family compounds to smaller nuclear family homes, from agricultural work to industrial jobs that kept them away from home for long hours. This social disruption created new needs for domestic comfort. The cozy corner evolved from a luxury for the wealthy to a psychological necessity for people trying to maintain their sanity in an increasingly complex and demanding world. The Victorian era, named after a queen who took mourning to professional levels, embraced the cozy corner as a refuge from industrial society's noise, pollution, and general unpleasantness. Victorian cozy corners were elaborate productions that combined comfort with moral instruction. They weren't just places to sit, they were statements about family values, social status, and the proper way to live a civilized life. Victorian parlors featured multiple cozy corner options: window seats with built-in storage for books and needlework, fireside seating areas with matching chairs and footstools, and reading alcoves equipped with adjustable lamps and small tables for tea service. The Victorians also invented the concept of seasonal cozy corner decoration. Summer corners featured light fabrics, floral patterns, and arrangements of fresh flowers. Winter corners were layered with heavy wool throws, darker colors, and decorations that evoked warmth and security. This wasn't just about fashion. It was about using the cozy corner to create psychological seasons, internal environments that supported different moods and activities throughout the year. Victorian women, in particular, embraced cozy corners as spaces for the domestic arts and personal reflection. These were places where they could pursue hobbies, write letters, read novels, and engage in the kind of thoughtful solitude that was increasingly rare in busy household and social schedules. The Victorian cozy corner became a sanctuary for activities that were neither work nor formal social obligations, a space for the self that existed between public and private life. The arts and crafts movement of the late 19th and early 20th centuries rejected Victorian elaboration in favor of simpler, more honest design principles. Arts and crafts advocates believed that beautiful, handcrafted objects and environments could improve human character and social conditions. They approached cozy corner design with missionary zeal, creating spaces that were comfortable without being ostentatious, beautiful without being artificial. Arts and crafts cozy corners emphasized natural materials, simple lines, and integration with the surrounding architecture. Instead of being decorated additions to rooms, they became integral parts of the overall design scheme. Built-in window seats, inglenook fireplaces, and reading alcoves were designed as permanent features that belonged to the house rather than being imposed upon it. This approach created cozy corners that felt organic and inevitable rather than contrived and temporary. The arts and crafts movement also emphasized the moral dimensions of comfort. They believed that well-designed, comfortable environments supported good character and healthy family life. The cozy corner wasn't just about personal pleasure. It was about creating conditions for human flourishing, for the kind of domestic harmony that could serve as a foundation for broader social improvement. The 20th century arrived with unprecedented technological and social changes that would transform every aspect of human life, including how and where people sought comfort and refuge. 2 world wars, rapid urbanization, changing gender roles, and new technologies created new stresses and new opportunities for domestic comfort. The 1920s brought modernist design principles that initially seemed hostile to the cozy corner concept. Modernist architects and designers emphasized clean lines, open spaces, and the integration of indoor and outdoor living. They rejected the cluttered, compartmentalized interiors of the Victorian era in favor of streamlined, functional spaces that looked like they belonged in the future rather than the past. But even modernist designers recognized the human need for intimate, comfortable spaces within larger architectural schemes. They created cozy corners that were geometric rather than curved, minimal rather than elaborate, but still provided the essential functions of enclosure, comfort, and psychological refuge. Mid-century modern cozy corners featured built-in seating, simple color schemes, and furniture with clean lines that somehow managed to be both sculptural and comfortable. The post-World War II era brought unprecedented prosperity to many Western countries, along with new suburban lifestyles that created new opportunities for domestic comfort. Suburban homes were larger than their urban predecessors, with dedicated spaces for different activities and more opportunities for cozy corner creation. The family room, a new type of informal living space, became a laboratory for cozy corner experimentation. Television, which arrived in most homes during the 1950s, created new requirements for cozy corner design. Suddenly, comfortable seating needed to be oriented toward a specific focal point, and cozy corners needed to accommodate the technology while maintaining their essential character. This led to innovations like the TV corner, conversation pits, and modular seating arrangements that could be reconfigured for different activities. The 1960s and 1970s brought countercultural movements that rejected many mainstream values, including conventional approaches to interior design. Hippie aesthetics embraced eclecticism, handcrafted objects, and spaces that looked organic rather than professionally designed. The cozy corners of this era featured floor cushions instead of formal furniture, hanging plants instead of architectural details, and color schemes that suggested pharmaceutical experimentation rather than interior design training. But beneath the unconventional aesthetics, these counterculture cozy corners served the same essential functions as their more traditional predecessors. They provided refuge, comfort, and spaces for activities that nourished the soul, reading poetry, listening to music, engaging in deep conversation, and contemplating the possibility that maybe the establishment really didn't have all the answers after all. The 1980s brought a return to more elaborate, status-conscious design approaches. Cozy corners became exercises in conspicuous consumption, featuring expensive fabrics, designer furniture, and enough accessories to stock a small boutique. This was the era of the power corner, cozy spaces that were designed not just for comfort, but for displaying wealth, taste, and social position. But even in their most excessive forms, 1980s cozy corners maintained their essential function as retreats from the outside world. The world of the 1980s was increasingly fast-paced, competitive, and stressful, and even successful people needed spaces where they could decompress and reconnect with their inner selves. Assuming they could find those inner selves underneath all the shoulder pads and hairspray. The 1990s brought the beginning of the digital revolution, which would eventually transform how humans work, communicate, and seek entertainment. Personal computers, initially bulky and complicated enough to require their own furniture, created new requirements for cozy corner design. The home office became a new type of cozy corner, a space that needed to be comfortable for extended periods while accommodating technology that was changing faster than most people could keep up with. The internet, which started as a curiosity for academics and computer enthusiasts, began to change how people related to space and comfort. Suddenly, you could travel the world, communicate with strangers, and access vast libraries of information without leaving your cozy corner. This created new possibilities for what a retreat could be, not just a refuge from the world, but a portal to other worlds entirely. The early 21st century brought smartphones, social media, and the constant connectivity that would reshape human relationships with both solitude and community. The cozy corner evolved to accommodate this new reality, becoming a space where people could be alone while still being connected, where they could retreat from physical demands while remaining available for digital ones. This period also saw the rise of hygge, a Danish concept that was essentially a sophisticated name for what humans had been doing in cozy corners for thousands of years, creating comfortable, intimate environments that supported well-being and contentment. Hygge became a global phenomenon, spawning books, blogs, and an entire industry of products designed to help people achieve optimal coziness. The hygge movement recognized that cozy corners weren't just about furniture and decoration. They were about creating experiences and emotional states. The perfect cozy corner wasn't necessarily the most expensive or elaborate one. It was the one that best supported whatever activities and moods the inhabitant valued most. This could mean different things to different people, A reading corner filled with books and good lighting, a meditation space with minimal furnishing and maximum serenity, or a creative corner equipped with art supplies and inspiring objects. The 2010s brought the sharing economy, which extended the cozy corner concept beyond private homes. Coffee shops became professional cozy corners, designed to accommodate people who needed comfortable spaces for work, study, or social meetings outside their homes. Co-working spaces emerged as shared cozy corners for professionals who wanted the psychological benefits of community while maintaining the focus and comfort associated with intimate spaces. The concept of the third place, neither home nor work, but somewhere in between, became increasingly important as traditional boundaries between personal and professional life became more fluid. Cozy corners in public spaces served essential functions for people who needed transitional zones between the different roles and responsibilities of modern life. The late 2010s and early 2020s brought unprecedented global challenges that would test every assumption about comfort, safety, and the relationship between public and private space. A global pandemic suddenly made home-based cozy corners more important than they had been since the medieval period, when most people rarely traveled more than a few miles from where they were born. Suddenly, cozy corners needed to serve multiple functions simultaneously: home office, school classroom, entertainment center, social gathering place, and psychological refuge. The concept of the multi-purpose cozy corner emerged from necessity, creating spaces that could be quickly reconfigured for different activities throughout the day. A corner that served as a meditation space during morning might become a video conference background during working hours, a homework station in the afternoon, and a reading retreat in the evening. The pandemic also highlighted the psychological importance of cozy corners during times of stress and uncertainty. When the outside world became unpredictable and potentially dangerous, the cozy corner represented safety, control, and the continuity of personal routines and preferences. People who had never paid much attention to their domestic environments suddenly found themselves investing significant time and money in creating spaces that could support extended periods of home-based living. This period saw the rise of the Instagram-worthy cozy corner, spaces designed not just for personal comfort, but for sharing on social media. The aesthetic of coziness became a form of communication, a way of expressing values, personality, and aspirations through carefully curated images of domestic spaces. This wasn't entirely new, of course. People had been using their homes to communicate about themselves for centuries. But social media made the practice more explicit and widespread. The Instagram cozy corner phenomenon revealed both the enduring appeal of these spaces and some of the tensions inherent in contemporary life. People wanted authentic comfort, but they also wanted that comfort to look good in photographs. They wanted private retreats, but they also wanted to share those retreats with online communities. They wanted spaces that supported genuine relaxation, but they also wanted spaces that projected successful adulting and sophisticated taste. These contradictions weren't necessarily problematic. Humans have always used their environments to express identity and communicate with others. The difference in the digital age was the speed and scale of this communication, and the degree to which it influenced how people designed and used their private spaces. The rise of remote work, accelerated by the pandemic, but already underway due to technological changes, created new requirements for cozy corner functionality. The traditional separation between spaces for work and spaces for relaxation became less distinct, requiring innovative solutions for creating environments that could support both productivity and restoration, sometimes within the same day or even the same hour. The concept of the transitional cozy corner emerged from this need: spaces designed to help people shift between different mental states and activities. These might include elements that could signal work mode, good lighting, ergonomic seating, access to technology, and elements that could signal relaxation mode, soft textures, plants, personal objects that had no relationship to professional responsibilities. Biophilic design, the practice of incorporating natural elements into indoor environments, became increasingly important in cozy corner creation. Research in environmental psychology confirmed what cozy corner enthusiasts had long suspected: contact with nature, even indirect contact through images, sounds, or natural materials, supported psychological well well-being and stress reduction. Modern cozy corners began featuring more plants, natural light, organic textures, and color schemes inspired by natural environments. The tiny house movement, which gained momentum in the 2010s and 2020s, represented an extreme application of cozy corner principles to entire living spaces. Tiny house enthusiasts argued that smaller spaces, when well designed, could be more comfortable and psychologically satisfying than larger ones. Every square foot needed to serve multiple functions, and every design decision needed to prioritize both practical utility and emotional well-being. Tiny house cozy corners were marvels of efficiency and creativity, featuring built-in storage, multipurpose furniture, and ingenious solutions for creating privacy and intimacy within very limited spaces. These cozy corners proved that the essential functions of retreat and restoration didn't require large amounts of square footage. They required thoughtful design that prioritized human psychological needs over conventional assumptions about space and status. The sustainability movement also influenced cozy corner evolution, with increased emphasis on durable, responsibly sourced materials and energy-efficient design. The truly cozy corner became one that not only provided personal comfort, but also aligned with environmental values and concerns about climate change. This led to innovations in natural insulation, renewable energy systems, and furniture made from reclaimed or rapidly renewable materials. The maker movement, enabled by new technologies like 3D printing and online tutorials, democratized cozy corner creation by giving people tools and knowledge for customizing their spaces without professional help. DIY cozy corners became expressions of personal creativity as well as comfort preferences, with people designing and building furniture, creating custom storage solutions, and developing unique decorative schemes that couldn't be purchased from any store. This maker approach to cozy corner creation represented a return to pre-industrial traditions of craftsmanship and customization, but with contemporary tools and global access to ideas and inspiration. A person could learn traditional woodworking techniques from online videos, purchase materials from international suppliers, and create a cozy corner that combined elements from multiple cultures and design traditions. The global nature of contemporary culture also influenced cozy corner evolution, with people incorporating design elements from different traditions and cultural approaches to comfort and retreat. Scandinavian hygge met Japanese wabi, sabi met American frontier practicality met Mediterranean outdoor living, creating eclectic cozy corners that reflected the globalized nature of contemporary life and the universal human need for comfortable retreat spaces. Wellness culture, with its emphasis on mental health, self-care, and holistic approaches to well-being, provided new frameworks for understanding the importance of cozy corners. These spaces weren't just about comfort or aesthetics. They were about creating environments that supported psychological health, stress management, and the kind of restoration that enabled people to engage productively with the demands of contemporary life. The concept of the therapeutic cozy corner emerged from this wellness perspective, with spaces specifically designed to support activities like meditation, journaling, creative expression, and other practices associated with mental health and personal development. These corners might feature specific lighting designed to support circadian rhythms, acoustics that reduced stress and supported concentration, and furnishing that encouraged good posture and physical comfort during extended periods of seated activity. Technology continued to influence cozy corner evolution, but not always in ways that early digital enthusiasts had predicted. Instead of creating entirely virtual retreat spaces, technology was increasingly used to enhance rather than replace physical comfort environments. Smart home systems could adjust lighting, temperature, and even sound levels to support different activities and moods. Streaming services provided access to vast libraries of music, podcasts, and video content that could enhance rather than distract from cozy corner activities. But there was also a counter-movement toward technology-free cozy corners, spaces specifically designed to provide refuge from constant connectivity and digital stimulation. These analog cozy corners featured physical books instead of e-readers, board games instead of video games, and design elements that actively discouraged the use of digital devices. The goal wasn't to reject technology entirely, but to create spaces where people could experience the kind of focused attention and mental quiet that had become increasingly rare in hyper-connected contemporary life. The rise of mindfulness and meditation practices, partially inspired by Eastern spiritual traditions, but adapted for secular Western contexts, influenced cozy corner design by emphasizing the importance of simplicity, intentionality, and spaces that supported present moment awareness. Mindful cozy corners featured minimal decoration, natural materials, and design elements that encourage contemplation rather than stimulation. These mindfulness-inspired spaces represented a sophisticated understanding of how physical environments affected mental states, drawing on both ancient wisdom traditions and contemporary neuroscience research. The most effective cozy corners weren't necessarily the most elaborate or expensive ones. They were the ones that most effectively supported whatever mental state or activity the inhabitant was trying to cultivate. The concept of the seasonal cozy corner, introduced by the Victorians, evolved to accommodate contemporary understanding of circadian rhythms, seasonal affective disorder, and the importance of natural light cycles for psychological well-being. Modern seasonal cozy corners might feature light therapy lamps for winter use, plants that flowered at different times throughout the year, and textiles and decorations that could be easily changed to reflect seasonal changes and support seasonal mental health needs. The aging of the population in many developed countries created new considerations for cozy corner design, with increased emphasis on accessibility, safety, and accommodation for changing physical abilities. Universal design principles, originally developed for people with disabilities, began influencing mainstream cozy corner creation, with features like lever handles instead of knobs, good lighting that reduced eye strain, and seating that provided adequate support while remaining easy to get into and out of. These accessibility considerations didn't reduce the comfort or appeal of cozy corners. They often enhanced them by creating spaces that were more comfortable and usable for everyone. The best accessible cozy corners demonstrated that inclusive design could be both functional and beautiful, supporting diverse human needs without sacrificing aesthetic appeal or emotional resonance. Climate change began influencing cozy corner design as extreme weather events became more common and energy costs increased. Cozy corners needed to provide comfort and psychological refuge while also being energy efficient and resilient in the face of power outages, extreme temperatures, and other climate-related challenges. This led to innovations in passive heating and cooling, natural ventilation systems, and designs that could maintain comfort even when conventional building systems failed. The concept of the climate-adaptive cozy corner emerged from these challenges, featuring design elements that could provide comfort across a wider range of environmental conditions. These might include thermal mass elements that moderated temperature swings, natural ventilation that reduced dependence on mechanical systems, and furnishing that remained comfortable across a broader range of temperatures and humidity levels. Economic uncertainty and changing employment patterns influenced cozy corner evolution by increasing emphasis on durability, versatility, and value. People wanted cozy corners that could adapt to changing circumstances, whether that meant accommodating different work arrangements, housing situations, or family compositions. The concept of the modular cozy corner emerged from these needs, featuring elements that could be reconfigured, moved, or repurposed as circumstances changed. These economic considerations also led to increased interest in DIY solutions, vintage and second-hand furnishing, and design approaches that prioritized creativity and resourcefulness over expensive purchases. The best cozy corners increasingly became those that reflected their inhabitants' ingenuity and personal style, rather than their purchasing power or access to professional design services. The sharing economy extended to cozy corner creation through online platforms that connected people with tools, skills, and resources for improving their living spaces. People could borrow tools for DIY projects, hire neighbors for help with installation or decoration, and access professional design advice through apps and online services. This democratized access to the kind of expertise and resources that had previously been available only to wealthy people who could afford professional interior designers. Mental health awareness campaigns and research into the relationship between environment and psychological well-being provided scientific validation for what cozy corner enthusiasts had long known through experience. Physical spaces significantly influenced mood, stress levels, and overall mental health. This research supported increased investment in cozy corner creation, both by individuals seeking to improve their own well-being and by institutions seeking to create more supportive environments for students, employees, patients, and other populations. The concept of the therapeutic environment, borrowed from healthcare design, began influencing residential cozy corner creation with evidence-based approaches to color selection, lighting design, and spatial arrangement. These scientifically informed cozy corners weren't less comfortable or appealing than their traditional counterparts. They were often more effective at providing the psychological benefits that people sought from these spaces. Urban densification and rising housing costs in many cities created new challenges for cozy corner creation, with people needing to create comfortable retreat spaces within smaller homes and shared living arrangements. This led to innovations in space-efficient design, portable comfort solutions, and strategies for creating privacy and intimacy within limited and shared spaces. The concept of the micro-cozy corner emerged from these urban constraints, featuring design solutions that maximized comfort and psychological benefit within minimal square footage. These might include Murphy beds that converted sleeping areas into reading nooks during the day, modular furniture that could be reconfigured for different activities, and visual techniques that made small spaces feel larger and more private than they actually were. Intergenerational living arrangements, driven by both economic factors and changing cultural attitudes about family care, created new requirements for cozy corner design that could accommodate different ages, abilities, and lifestyle preferences within shared homes. The challenge was creating spaces that provided the psychological benefits of retreat and privacy, while maintaining the connection and accessibility that made intergenerational living successful. These multi-generational cozy corners often featured elements that could serve different users at different times, with adjustable seating that accommodated various physical abilities, storage systems that could organize different types of personal belongings, and design elements that reflected shared family values while still providing individual expression opportunities. The rise of the experience economy, with increased emphasis on creating memorable experiences rather than simply accumulating possessions, influenced cozy corner creation by focusing attention on how these spaces felt to inhabit rather than how they looked to observers. The best cozy corners became those that most effectively supported meaningful activities and positive emotional experiences, regardless of whether they photographed well or impressed visitors. This experience-focused approach led to increased emphasis on sensory design elements, textures that were pleasant to touch, scents that evoked positive memories or emotional states, sounds that supported concentration or relaxation, and lighting that enhanced rather than interfered with desired activities. The multi-sensory cozy corner engaged more than just visual aesthetics, creating immersive environments that supported well-being through multiple pathways. Cultural movements toward authenticity and mindful consumption influenced cozy corner creation by emphasizing quality over quantity, personal meaning over social status, and long-term satisfaction over temporary trends. The authentic cozy corner became one that genuinely reflected its inhabitants' values, interests, and lifestyle rather than trying to conform to external expectations or design magazine standards. This authenticity movement also supported increased interest in vintage, handmade, and culturally significant objects that brought personal history and meaning into cozy corner design. The most satisfying cozy corners often featured elements that told stories: family heirlooms, travel souvenirs, handmade objects, and other possessions that connected their owners to important people, places, and experiences. The concept of the narrative cozy corner emerged from this emphasis on personal meaning, with spaces that served as three-dimensional autobiographies, telling the story of their inhabitants' interests, relationships, travels, and values through carefully chosen and arranged objects. These weren't cluttered or chaotic spaces. They were thoughtfully curated environments where every element contributed to a larger story about who the inhabitant was and what they valued. Remote education and lifelong learning created new requirements for cozy corners that could support focused study and skill development outside traditional educational institutions. The Learning Cozy Corner needed to accommodate different types of educational activities, from reading and writing to video conferences and hands-on projects, while maintaining the comfort and psychological support that made extended periods of learning sustainable and enjoyable. These educational cozy corners often featured elements that supported different learning styles and activities: good task lighting for reading, ergonomic seating for extended sessions, storage for books and supplies, technology infrastructure for online learning, and design elements that inspired curiosity and creativity rather than distraction or stress. The maker movement and DIY culture influenced cozy corner creation by encouraging people to view these spaces as ongoing creative projects rather than finished products. The evolving cozy corner became one that changed and developed over time, reflecting its inhabitants' changing interests, skills, and circumstances. This approach reduced the pressure to create perfect spaces immediately while increasing the satisfaction that came from gradual improvement and personalization. DIY cozy corners also provided opportunities for skill development and creative expression that were separate from professional obligations. Building a bookshelf, sewing cushion covers, or arranging furniture became forms of creative practice that contributed to both the physical comfort of the space and the psychological satisfaction of its inhabitant. The gig economy and changing work patterns created new requirements for cozy corners that could serve multiple professional functions, while maintaining their essential character as retreat spaces. The freelance cozy corner needed to accommodate client meetings, creative work, administrative tasks, and professional development, while still providing the psychological restoration that enabled sustainable self-employment. These multi-functional professional cozy corners often featured design elements that could signal different modes, lighting that could be adjusted for different types of work, storage systems that kept professional materials organized, but not visually dominant, and seating that was comfortable for extended work sessions, but could also accommodate relaxation and informal meetings. The rise of social entrepreneurship and purpose-driven careers influenced cozy corner design by creating spaces that needed to support work that was personally meaningful, but often financially unpredictable. These mission-driven cozy corners served as both practical workspaces and spiritual refuges, places where people could maintain connection to their values and sense of purpose during challenging periods of career development. Community-supported agriculture, local food movements, and increased interest in cooking and food preparation created new types of cozy corners that extended comfort and retreat concepts to kitchen and dining areas. The culinary cozy corner became a space for food preparation that was meditative rather than stressful, educational rather than routine, and connected to broader values about health, sustainability, and community connection. These food-focused cozy corners often featured elements that made cooking and eating more contemplative and satisfying: herb gardens that provided fresh ingredients and pleasant scents, seating areas that encouraged lingering over meals, and storage systems that displayed beautiful ingredients and tools rather than hiding them away. The goal was to transform daily food activities from chores into opportunities for mindfulness, creativity, and connection. The tiny house movement evolved into broader discussions about intentional living and the relationship between space, possessions, and well-being. The minimalist cozy corner emerged from these conversations, featuring carefully selected elements that provided maximum psychological benefit with minimal physical clutter. These spaces demonstrated that comfort didn't require abundance. It required thoughtfulness and intentionality in choosing what to include and what to leave out. Minimalist cozy corners often achieved their effectiveness through subtraction rather than addition, creating spaces that felt restful and calming precisely because they weren't visually or psychologically overwhelming. The challenge was maintaining warmth and personality while avoiding the kind of sterile emptiness that felt institutional rather than homey. Climate activism and environmental consciousness influenced cozy corner creation through increased emphasis on sustainable materials, energy efficiency, and designs that connected inhabitants to natural cycles and environmental awareness. The eco-conscious cozy corner became a space for both personal restoration and environmental education, featuring elements that supported individual well-being while also expressing values about planetary stewardship. These environmentally minded cozy corners often included elements like indoor air purifying plants, natural fiber textiles, reclaimed wood furniture, and design features that maximized natural light and ventilation. The goal was creating spaces that felt good to inhabit, while also modeling sustainable lifestyle practices that could be extended to other areas of life. Digital detox movements and screen time awareness campaigns influenced cozy corner design by creating spaces specifically intended to provide refuge from constant connectivity and digital stimulation. The analog cozy corner became a deliberate counter, balanced to hyper-connected contemporary life, featuring books instead of screens, board games instead of video games, and activities that encourage face-to-face interaction and present moment awareness. These tech-free cozy corners weren't anti-technology so much as pro-balance, recognizing that the benefits of digital connectivity were best enjoyed when balanced with periods of analog activity and contemplation. The most effective digital detox cozy corners made disconnection appealing rather than punitive, offering genuinely engaging alternatives to screen-based entertainment and communication. The aging population and increased awareness of age-related cognitive and physical changes influenced cozy corner design through universal accessibility principles that made these spaces more comfortable and usable for people across different life stages and ability levels. The age-friendly cozy corner featured elements like adequate lighting that reduced eye strain, seating that provided good support while remaining easy to get into and out of, and organization systems that reduced cognitive load while maintaining visual appeal. These accessibility considerations often improved cozy corners for everyone, not just older users. Good lighting, comfortable seating, and logical organization benefited people of all ages and abilities, demonstrating that inclusive design could enhance rather than compromise the essential functions of comfort and retreat. Neurodiversity awareness and understanding of different sensory processing needs influenced cozy corner design by recognizing that comfort and retreat requirements varied significantly among individuals. The sensory-friendly cozy corner might feature elements like noise, reducing materials for people sensitive to sound, adjustable lighting for people with visual processing differences, or tactile elements that provided calming sensory input for people who benefited from such stimulation. These neurodiversity-informed cozy corners expanded understanding of what comfort meant and how physical environments could be designed to support different nervous systems and sensory preferences. The goal wasn't creating one-size-fits-all solutions, but rather understanding how to customize cozy corners for individual needs and preferences. Mental health destigmatization and increased awareness of anxiety, depression, and trauma informed cozy corner design through evidence-based approaches to creating environments that supported psychological healing and emotional regulation. The therapeutic cozy corner incorporated elements known to reduce stress and support mental health: natural light, plants, comfortable seating, and design elements that promoted feelings of safety and control. These mental health-informed cozy corners weren't medical treatment, but they could serve as supportive environments that complemented professional mental health care. The goal was creating spaces that helped people feel grounded, safe, and capable of engaging in activities that supported their psychological well-being. Global supply chain disruptions and increased awareness of production ethics influenced cozy corner creation through emphasis on locally sourced materials, ethical manufacturing, and design approaches that supported local craftspeople and businesses rather than global corporate retailers. The locally sourced cozy corner became an expression of community connection and economic values as well as personal comfort preferences. These locally focused cozy corners often featured unique elements that couldn't be found anywhere else. See furniture made by regional craftspeople, textiles produced by local artists, and decorative elements that reflected the natural environment and cultural heritage of their specific geographic location. The result was spaces that felt both globally informed and locally rooted. Food security concerns and increased interest in self-sufficiency influenced cozy corner evolution through integration with food production and preservation activities. The homesteading cozy corner combined traditional retreat functions with practical activities like food preservation, fermentation, and small-scale food production, creating spaces that provided psychological comfort while also supporting practical skills and increased self-reliance. These production-oriented cozy corners often featured elements like herb drying areas, fermentation stations, seed starting setups, and storage for preserved foods. The activities themselves became forms of meditation and stress relief, connecting inhabitants to traditional skills and seasonal cycles while also providing practical benefits. Social isolation concerns, heightened by pandemic experiences but reflecting broader trends in contemporary life, influenced cozy corner design through emphasis on spaces that could accommodate both solitude and connection. The socially flexible cozy corner needed to provide genuine retreat and privacy while also being able to accommodate small gatherings, video calls, and other forms of social interaction. These socially adaptable cozy corners often featured modular furniture that could be reconfigured for different group sizes, technology infrastructure that supported high-quality video communication, and design elements that created intimate atmospheres, whether occupied by one person or several people. Intergenerational wealth transfer and inheritance patterns influenced cozy corner creation as people received family furniture, artwork, and decorative objects that carried emotional significance, but might not match contemporary design preferences. The heritage cozy corner became a space for integrating meaningful family objects with personal style preferences, creating environments that honored family history while still reflecting current inhabitants' personalities and needs. These heritage-influenced cozy corners often required creative solutions for making older furniture and decorative objects work within contemporary lifestyles and living spaces. The challenge was maintaining emotional connections to family history while creating spaces that felt current and personally authentic rather than museum-like or overly nostalgic. Craft revival movements and increased interest in traditional skills influenced cozy corner design through spaces that accommodated hands-on creative activities like knitting, woodworking, pottery, and other traditional crafts. The Maker Cozy Corner provided space and storage for creative supplies while also serving as a retreat where people could engage in meditative, hands-on activities that provided psychological benefits beyond their practical outcomes. These craft-focused cozy corners often featured good task lighting, organized storage for supplies and works in progress, and surfaces that could accommodate messy creative activities without damage to surrounding furnishings. The goal was making creative practice convenient and appealing rather than something that required extensive setup and cleanup procedures. Cultural preservation efforts and increased interest in ethnic heritage influenced cozy corner creation through incorporation of traditional design elements, cultural artifacts, and decorative approaches that reflected inhabitants' ancestral backgrounds. The culturally rooted cozy corner became a space for maintaining connection to cultural identity while also serving contemporary comfort and retreat needs. These culturally informed cozy corners often featured elements like traditional textiles, culturally significant colors and patterns, and objects that told stories about family history and cultural traditions. The challenge was incorporating cultural elements in ways that felt authentic and meaningful rather than superficial or stereotypical. Seasonal depression awareness and research into the relationship between light exposure and mental health influenced cozy corner design through emphasis on natural light, light therapy options, and design elements that could help maintain psychological well-being during darker months. The light therapy cozy corner incorporated both natural and artificial lighting solutions that could help regulate circadian rhythms and support mood stability throughout the year. These light-focused cozy corners often featured large windows, light, colored surfaces that reflected available natural light, and artificial lighting systems that could provide therapeutic light exposure during times when natural light was insufficient. The goal was creating spaces that supported psychological health while maintaining the comfort and intimacy associated with traditional cozy corners. Economic inequality and housing affordability crises influenced cozy corner creation through emphasis on low-cost solutions, space-efficient designs, and approaches that could create comfort and retreat within limited budgets and small living spaces. The affordable cozy corner demonstrated that effective retreat spaces didn't require large budgets or extensive square footage. They required creativity, resourcefulness, an understanding of what elements were truly essential for psychological comfort. These budget-conscious cozy corners often featured DIY solutions, second-hand and repurposed furniture, and design approaches that maximized impact through clever arrangement and styling rather than expensive purchases. The most successful affordable cozy corners proved that personal style and comfort could be achieved through ingenuity and effort rather than purchasing power. Remote work normalization and changing attitudes toward work-life balance influenced cozy corner design through spaces that could support professional activities while maintaining clear boundaries between work and personal life. The work-life balance cozy corner needed to accommodate professional requirements while also providing genuine psychological separation from work stress and obligations. These balance-focused cozy corners often featured elements that could clearly signal different modes, lighting that could shift from task-oriented to relaxation-oriented, storage that could hide work materials when not needed, and design elements that supported both productivity and restoration depending on the time of day and intended use. Mindfulness and meditation mainstream adoption influenced cozy corner creation through spaces specifically designed to support contemplative practices and present moment awareness. The meditation cozy corner incorporated elements known to support mindfulness practice, minimal visual distractions, comfortable seating for extended periods, and design elements that encouraged inward focus rather than external stimulation. These contemplatively designed cozy corners often achieved their effectiveness through simplicity and intentionality rather than elaborate decoration or expensive furnishing. The goal was creating environments that supported the kind of mental quiet and focused attention that had become increasingly rare and valuable in contemporary life. Biophilic design research and understanding of human evolutionary connections to natural environments influenced cozy corner creation through increased incorporation of plants, natural materials, views of nature, and design elements that evoked natural settings. The nature-connected cozy corner recognized that human well-being was enhanced by connection to natural environments, even when that connection was indirect or symbolic. These nature-inspired cozy corners often featured living plants, natural fiber textiles, wood and stone materials, and color schemes derived from natural environments. The goal wasn't recreating outdoor environments indoors, but rather incorporating natural elements that provide some of the psychological benefits associated with time spent in nature. Stress reduction research and understanding of environmental factors that influenced stress levels informed cozy corner design through evidence-based approaches to color selection, noise reduction, lighting design, and spatial arrangement. The scientifically informed cozy corner incorporated research findings about environmental psychology while maintaining the warmth and personality that made these spaces emotionally satisfying. These research-based cozy corners demonstrated that effective comfort wasn't just about personal preference or cultural tradition. It was also about understanding how physical environments affected human physiology and psychology. The most successful scientifically informed cozy corners managed to be both evidence-based and emotionally resonant. Social media influence and the rise of design-focused online content influenced cozy corner creation through increased awareness of design trends, DIY techniques, and creative possibilities that might not have been accessible through traditional sources. The social media-inspired cozy corner reflected global design influences and creative techniques that people learned through online platforms rather than local sources or professional designers. However, social media influence also created pressure to create spaces that photographed well rather than spaces that genuinely supported comfort and well-being. The most successful social media influenced cozy corners managed to incorporate appealing visual elements while maintaining their essential functions as retreat and restoration spaces. Pandemic experiences and extended periods of home-based living provided unprecedented opportunities for cozy corner experimentation and development. People who had never paid much attention to their domestic environments suddenly found themselves spending most of their time at home and needing spaces that could support multiple functions while providing psychological comfort during stressful and uncertain times. The pandemic cozy corner evolved rapidly through trial and error as people discovered what elements were truly essential for comfort and what elements were merely decorative. These spaces needed to support work, education, entertainment, social connection, and solitude, often within the same day or even the same hour. Post-pandemic life brought new appreciation for domestic comfort and new understanding of how physical environments affected mental health, productivity, and overall well-being. The post-pandemic cozy corner incorporated lessons learned during lockdowns while also preparing for future disruptions and challenges that might again require extended periods of home-based living. Current cozy corner evolution continues to be shaped by ongoing technological, environmental, social, and economic changes that create new requirements and possibilities for domestic comfort. Contemporary cozy corners must accommodate remote work, climate change, social isolation, economic uncertainty, and rapidly changing lifestyle patterns, while maintaining their essential functions as spaces for retreat, restoration, and personal reflection. The future of cozy corners will likely be influenced by continued technological development, environmental challenges, demographic changes, an evolving understanding of the relationship between physical environments and human well-being. Whatever form they take, cozy corners will continue to serve the fundamental human need for spaces that provide comfort, security, and respite from the demands and stresses of daily life. From Groke's rocky alcove to smart home-enabled comfort zones, cozy corners represent humanity's continuous effort to create spaces that support both physical comfort and psychological well-being. They reflect changing technologies, social structures, and cultural values, but they also represent continuity in human nature and the persistent need for spaces that feel safe, comfortable, and personally meaningful. The history of cozy corners is ultimately a history of human ingenuity in creating comfort, meaning that these spaces will continue to evolve as long as humans continue to need refuge, restoration, and places to call their own. Whether high-tech or low-tech, minimalist or elaborate, expensive or budget-friendly, the best cozy corners will always be those that most effectively support their inhabitants' needs for comfort, privacy, and connection to whatever they value most deeply. In the end, every cozy corner tells a story about its creator's understanding of comfort, safety, and the good life. These stories, accumulated over thousands of years and millions of individual spaces, comprise a collective human narrative about the ongoing effort to create environments that support flourishing rather than mere survival. And that story, like the cozy corners that inspire it, continues to unfold in countless homes, hearts, and corners around the world.